Hi, welcome to Drum Coding. So let's today we are now going to talk about reducers. So basically, reducers are something that we mainly use in Redux, as well as there is a use reducer hook, which is similar to use state hook. So let's say we have three states. Okay, and which is going to update, let's say we have a card component, like we are going to add some item in a cart, and we are going to update the total amount, and three different things we are going to need. So we have three states for that, but we are going to update at a single time all of those. So instead of three state, we can use reducer hook, which is just to update the state. So what the difference between the use state and use reducer is, basically it will take a reducer. So reducer is basically a function that will return the current updated state. Okay, so we are going to pass some values in that, and it will going to return some updated state. Okay, so now why are reducers important? Because it is a technique to update the state. Like instead of we are going to use state, we are going to update via use reducers, and reducers are main part of to update the state in that particular sense. So let's say, and also reducers are heavily used in Redux. So if you want to learn Redux, this is the first step to learn. So now let's take an example how we can do that and what are the reducers. So if you can learn, if you just want to learn how the your reducer hook works, then this is fine. But I would suggest from this point, I'll also teach the Redux part also, so you can learn that as well. Okay, so let's say let's create two functions, like two buttons. Okay, and button 1, this is like add items. Okay, this will add the items, and also let's create another one. This will a toggle button. Okay, this is just an example how reducers work, and with this example you can learn the basics of the reducers. Actually it is quite difficult for the beginners to learn how what are reducers and all those things. Okay, so let's start with what is a reducer function. So reducer function is basically a function that will return the updated state. Okay, so it will take current state and action. So what is action? Action is also an object. Basically if you are going to learn Redux, everything is an object in there. So let's say, like let's update, we are creating a user like cart reducer. Okay, and this is an, like I have already told, this is just a function. Okay, so what it will take, it will take current state and an action. Okay, so in an action is basically like how you are going to update the state. We can't in the use state we are using set state, right? So instead of that we are going to use actions for to update the states in the reducers. Okay, so let's say const. Okay, so what is in actions? In action we have, it is basically an object in which we have, one is type and second is payload. Okay, it is always same, and all the payload one is optional. Okay, so payload is optional, but type is compulsory. Okay, we are always going to need the type, because without type we can't define what state, because we have three states, right? So instead of three state we are using a reducer, reducer. Okay, so we have to define the type what we want to update. Okay, so let's say we have a toggle one. Okay, so we just want to toggle, we do not want to add item also. So we have to provide a type, like I'll show you how it is done. So type is compulsory, payload is optional. Okay, so let's now start with how so I've already told you it will return a object with the current like let's say I just want to update a toggle one. Okay, so let's say we have an return statement, and so I just want to update card toggle. Okay, and I just want to card previous one, it will be different one. Okay, so what is the use of type here? Okay, so let's say I'm going to use a switch statement. I'm going to pass a type. In this we are going to use a case. Okay, the first case is card toggle. So this can be different one for whatever the use you want. Okay, so we are going to return for that particular return. I'm going to update the toggle the card one there. Okay, so this is fine, right? But let's say instead of using what we are going to get the current state also. So right, so what we can do is current state dot card toggle, and we are going to invert that. Okay, so this will always return that. And now we have one this one, and let's say we are going to create for the add cart item, card add item. This case will always be different. Okay, so let's say we have a card item in that. I'll explain what is the card item. And so okay, so if we are going to update the card item, but with what? So here we are going to use the payload one. Okay, so we are going to use payload because so for the first one we are not going to need payload, and that is optional. But for the second one we are going to not need payload because we are going to update that payload with the card item. Or what you can do is card item dot push. Okay, so what we can do that as well. But I want to replace here. So if you want to push the new item in that, you can do that as well. Okay, so let's say we have switched this one case, this one, this one. Let's say a user passes some other type value, then what will happen? So for that we will use the default. So this is a basic one, and here we are going to throw new error unhandled type in reducer. Okay, so this is the basic of the reducers. So this is called a reducer function. So you will going to see this in a lot of the Redux architecture. So this is very heavily used. So just for the basic understanding, this is just a function that will take current state and action. Action is basically a type what we want to do, and a payload. Like if for the payload means I want to add I want a previous card item and I want to push in that. So for that you can do. But remember, a card like type, right? It will only work for the one case only. So if you want to do a lot of item like card add, and in the same way you want to delete also, you can't do that. For that you have to create a new case. Okay, let's say we have created a reducer functions. How are you going to use that? Okay, so let's say we are going to write use reducer. So basically this is for the use reducer. I'm going to import that. Okay, so I've imported that. What it will take? Okay, so like in the use state also we right, we all know that in use state we are passing some values here, empty string, false, or something like that, something we are passing. So what is these value? These are default value, initial values. So in the same way we have to pass in the reducers also. So like let's say initial value, this is just a constant, and it will take an object, right? Because we have a different one. So let's say we are card toggle. So initially we are setting it as false. Card item, initially we are setting as an empty array. Okay, so we are going to pass that. Okay, so what is the purpose of reducer here? So we are going to pass that reducer in the use reducer hook. and it will take that with the initial value and like initialize that. Okay, and what it will return? It will return current updated state as well as a dispatch. Just remember, this dispatch is same as set state. Like in state use state also we are getting the current state and the update the function to update the state. So same way it we are getting this one also, and the difference is we are passing the reducer function here instead of and with the initial values. Okay, so how we are going to update? Let's take an example. Let's say to use state, I just want to see what are the values that are changing. So like whenever the state is changing, I just want to console log the uh, state state. Okay, I just want to console log, I just want to check what it will do. Okay, and on click of this one, I want to dispatch the state. Okay, basically what will happen, it will dispatch means it will send a request to the card reducer. So for this one, okay, I want to add item. So for add item, what we are doing, we are sending a type and payload, right? Because we are going to need payload for that. So the type is this card add item. So what we are going to do, we are going to send an action. So action object is like type. Okay, and payload is what we are going to send an array, right? But we can, let's for example item 1. Okay, we can you can send anything. Okay, sorry for some I just updated the type 1, there is no changes other than that. Okay, so let's say we have thrown an error, unhandled type. Okay, so what we are doing is I just updated this one dispatch in this toggle one, right? We are not going to need the anything. So initial state is false, so we are just going to toggle that. Okay, and for this one I just needed type also, but for the first one I also need the payload because we are going to use that payload here, and we have updated that. So what the difference is this one? Okay, so if we are going to return this one, right, without this state, so what will happen is it will going to replace our current state with this only. So we do not want that, we want the all the other values to be retained, and we just want to update this one. So we are going to restructure the other values like user toggles, and instead of that we are going to update this one also, this one only. Okay, so let's see here what is happening. I'll just going to refresh this one. Initially it is running with an array 0. It will run two times because initially it is going to update the reducer, and it will run and check that for the first value and the second value. Okay, so now if we just check this we have updated this one. So for the toggle one, if we just update this one, you see we are sending this toggle switch here. The type is coming as toggle switch, it will go here, it will just update with the previous state and invert that. Okay, so here the user toggle is true. If you are going to do that again, it will be false. And if you are going to add the item, see we are going to add the item. If you are going to again add, it will be only one because we are not pushing that. If you just want to push, so user item dot push the payload. Okay, but we do not need know that what is the user item, so state dot. Okay, so now let's refresh again. If you are going to add one user item, okay, state dot user item dot push, it will be user item 2. One second, what is happening, what did I do wrong? So this will be an but if we push, why it is different? Okay, let's do one thing. We can just state dot user item. Okay, we can just restructure that 123 item dot comma 123. Is that fine? So let's say if we add 1 2 3. Okay, so we just did that, so it will destructure the previous one as well as the new one and return our new array. Okay, so this is the basic of reducer. So reducers are basically a function that will take the current state and action is basically what other type you want to update, like this one. And it will also take payload, which is not compulsory, it is optional. So for this one we do not need payload. So for wherever we are going to use this type, right, dispatch is basically to update the state. Okay, where we are going, we do not need the payload. Okay, and for the update item we need the payload. If we do not pass the payload, it will throw an error. Okay, so we are just going to pass this one. So we need, in the dispatch we are going to send an object. Basically this object is called an action object. Action. Okay, we are triggering an action with this dispatch one, and we are passing this one. So this is the basic of user use reducers. Okay, but this one, this concept of reducers and action is very much important in Redux. So we will explain this in the next video. Thank you.